This is a great piccolo. If I played on this in school, I would have had a much better time. I think some of you will be wondering, why the heck do you need a backup? When you do this as your profession, you always need to have a really good, reliable backup instrument to play on, just in case something happens to your main instrument. Composite thin wall head joint with profiled lip plate. So you can see that it's a carved lip plate and it has that wave style. And this combo is what I like. People who don't play the piccolo all the time tend to prefer like a wave style head joint because it kind of makes your airstream a little bit closer to what you feel on the flute. So when you switch to the piccolo, it's not so big of a difference. I'm really impressed with the fact that this is composite because it honestly feels like wood. I do enjoy the fact that it is composite because there are much fewer maintenance concerns. This lip hole is, in my opinion, gigantic for a piccolo. This is the YPC 62, and this is a very standard piccolo cut. And then we have this. I think there's something about the fact that the hole continues essentially like on the other side a little bit more that for some reason really helps me. Exactly as Nathan said, humidity wouldn't be much of an issue, you would assume, on composite. Yes. Does it have split E mechanism? I believe it does. This one does not have split E. Wait, I'm an idiot is what it is. You see that key going down by itself? There you go. This is how you get that community engagement going. You say something wrong and then people are like immediately want to come in and correct you. That's how you get that engagement going. So we're just going to say, I totally meant to do that. See, I was testing you guys. I have it rolled in way too far. I almost feel like I have to roll in more when it's not wave. I was trying to tuck that airstream really high for those really high notes. Usually as you go higher, the air bubble kind of like tucks up and further back. But I noticed that for the B flat, it's like suddenly really forward. You can feel the air bubble like moving in sort of like a predictable manner, usually in some form of up and back. But at a certain point, it will break away for like a couple of notes. I wonder if that makes it actually weirdly easier to play those high notes because you don't have to feel like you're having to tuck it up and back. That usually makes a lot of people feel like they're kind of choking, like no, it starts on the A. You can kind of like make the A work a little bit further back, but I can hear the resistance. It pops right out if I tuck it forward. A, B flat, B is right up in the front. All right, so that was high C. Please tell me your ears are okay. For low notes, that air bubble is sitting right on the lower lip. Middle register D is right at the bottom of my teeth. Now, you have to keep in mind, this is my mouth. I have a little child-sized mouth. When I go to the dentist, I have to ask for the pediatric x-ray tab. I want you to know that this may not be 100% applicable to your mouth. So I'm moving the air bubble around until I can hear that the piccolo just sort of like resonates. It feels like it's very easy to play because my high D is actually in the middle behind my top front teeth. It feels like the range between D6 to D7 is half the distance from D5 to D6. So you're going to feel like you have to make much larger changes in the lower register than in the middle register. So if you're playing a lot of stuff within the middle register, you're going to feel like you can just concentrate your air bubble pretty much just somewhere in the bottom half of your top front teeth, and it's just going to sound good. That would probably explain why it feels very responsive. G feels like it's right here. G sharp 7 is like squashed up here. A is weirdly lower but more front here. It's really weird. It's A7 to C8. They all feel right around there. I can see why I really like this, because this is actually my ideal. I like that the A to C is a little bit more forward, because that way I don't actually choke on it. There's not much change that you need to do in the entire middle register. That makes it so easy to play those like really lyrical things. You really don't have to think about it very much. There are some piccolos, at least for me, that I find that there's like a break somewhere in between in the middle register, and that makes it very difficult to make things really smooth, really expressive, etc. Let's just be real here. Some people will not like this at all. This is pretty darn ideal for someone who's normally a flutist, especially if you like to concentrate most of your kind of air bubble business very forward in the mouth. I just realized from trying to find the B, the fact that, you know, you have to kind of like feel out your notes in between where the low D sits and where D6 sits, it means that everything in between kind of feels like you're slightly in no man's land. At least for my mouth, I don't feel that air bubble kind of leaning on any physical part of my mouth. It's a little bit harder to find. Now, on the piccolo, you don't normally spend a whole lot of time in that low register, so I don't actually think it's a big issue. Very interesting. If you want to play really like thin and it's going to end up being soft, you kind of want to pinpoint your air bubble so it's like this tiny little air bubble. I was experimenting with like opening up the area itself, and that was causing a lot of cracking. I was experimenting with kind of opening up the area right behind it like that, and it was like almost there but not as stable as I wanted it to be. Where I found it the most stable, and why I was experimenting a lot, was that I discovered that if I opened up this area here, like if I really opened it up, pretended like I stuffed a marble in there or two, it was like stable, and it like gave a lot more resonance to the sound. It made it a lot louder. I thought for a moment that, oh, I just always have to open up this area behind my bottom front teeth in order to make it really loud and resonant. No, that is not the case. I tried it higher up. I tried it up here, and that did not work. I was like, what was going on? You guys could hear the intonation going crazy. The place where you open up stays relative to the air bubble. So it's kind of at an angle down and back. So if we're up here, that like open space is going to be like this. I did notice the same thing for the high G. So it's like, you know, you have it here and then you can open up this space behind it like that. It's pretty hard because you have to kind of open up this area behind your front teeth. It does kind of work. In most cases, you don't actually have to worry too much about dynamics when you're screaming up that high, because usually if you're being written in for a part like that, you are just going to be loud. There ain't no way around it. Most importantly, I would say, is to kind of get a feel of this for, you know, the first two registers. I think here for the D5, I just want to experiment right now. I'm going to guess that I have to like really open up this area down here. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening. If your mouth was actually a little taller, you might actually get a richer D. I only have so much space left. Let's mess around with articulation. So usually what happens is that you put the tip of your tongue right up against where that air bubble should sit. So wherever the air bubble is moving, you move your tongue with it. I wonder if this will actually make articulation in the highest notes much easier as well, because since it's so far forward in front of our teeth, at least I find that that means that I can just tongue out here, and that will work. That might make the articulation also feel a little bit easier because you don't have to do as many gymnastics. was right. So you tongue right here for these notes. For everything else, you tongue where that air bubble is. This is just the special one. In my opinion, again, that makes it a lot easier to play the highest notes if you can just tongue where it's very comfortable. I have had to tongue really up high against the roof of my mouth for super, super high notes on the piccolo. Always feel like I'm choking on my tongue. And I have a bad gag reflex. The K part of my tongue, which is like the middle part of my tongue, will hit as far forward as possible. To me, I like it because it feels more like a flap, and you can go faster if your tongue is flapping. You never want to go back and forth like this. It feels like it's about there. Ironically, it actually makes it really easy to double tongue G and G sharp 7. They're like right up around the same spot. That's funny because usually G and G sharp are like my absolute nemesis on piccolo. Just so you guys know, I normally don't sound like this on a piccolo. This piccolo does match me very well. This is a great piccolo. If I played on this in school, I would have had a much better time. About the mechanism, it's not the fastest. A little bit of resistance, but it's even across all the keys, including the auxiliary keys. A lot of like not as well made instruments, you will often find that the trill keys are either laggy or way bouncier. Like it's one or the other. Because it's even all throughout, it makes it very predictable to play. That's what you want. That's why you want it to be even. So David, you're saying I sound very poppy on this pick. I agree. I'm very impressed. Again, sub 1,000. Incredible. For having not practiced that in a million years, I am pretty impressed. I think my mouth is not used to playing the piccolo because I was like, oh wow, this airspeed is quite high. So the A is in front, but the G sharp is back. There is actually a lot of kind of back and forth. And I realized that I also was pulling my lips back too much. I have to keep my lips really forward. What's the verdict? That was okay, right? For having never actually studied it. This is really cutting it. I'm just gonna very quickly take out my Nagahara. It sits even lower than the Trevor James. It sits here. Do you guys notice that this is way mellower? It doesn't have the same snap and pop. I like it. Except for the low register, very similar to the Trevor James. Yeah, the high G and G sharp are actually in the same spot. And then like the A and above is in front of the front teeth. Yeah. I am so glad I got the Trevor James because it is so close to how this behaves. My Nagahara Mini, I need to roll in a little bit more. Yeah, that high G is like really popping now. That's why I started with this 2 rolled in. That's interesting. If you're looking at the actual wave, you'll see that it's a lot sharper on the Trevor James here. So I wonder if because of that, I need to roll in my Mopane more. I think what I really enjoy about my Mopane, because I work from home and I'm teaching from this exact setup that I'm streaming from, I find that the mellower tone is a lot better for like demonstrating to my students without completely blasting their ears off. It just makes for a better small room experience. Like it's mellow enough that it's like sounds nice right up close. I would say that the Trevor James, with it being so poppy, this to me would perform way better on a stage. I have played my Mopane in a chamber situation and it was fantastic. Guys, we did it. I reviewed my Trevor James thoroughly. I have concluded that I made the right purchase. Was it somewhat of an impulse purchase? Yes. Should you guys do an impulse purchase? No. Do as I say, do not do as I do. Every Asian parent. You guys have yourselves a wonderful weekend. I love you all so very much. Stay happy, healthy, and safe, because there is no music without the musician. Later, guys. Bye. So I was telling my husband yesterday about the fact that I'm doing this stream. Bought this Trevor James. I'm finally doing a review on it. And you know what he says? You know what my husband, my dear love of my life, says? He looks me straight in the eye. He doesn't know anything about piccolos, okay? He looks me straight in the eye and he goes, but shouldn't you buy a pearl? Even my husband. Under the backup piccolo trial video, there were a disproportionate number of comments asking why I wasn't trying a pearl. There were so many questions that I felt a little bombarded. I was confused by it because in the United States, the pearl was over my budget of $1,000 US.